What were some unexpected challenges you had to overcome?
But the problem was, and this was pre-internet day, so I was burning CDs.
This is before my time.
CD is this piece of plastic. It's round. You put music on it.
Where did you come up with that idea first?
When you sit down with a student, you don't have to go like, what am I going to do with you today? Instead of just having a chord box, it says R, 3, and 5 on the diagram. When a student is sitting there, they go, what's with the R's, the 3's, and the 5's? And they're in different colors. And I go, now I teach you about that. And then they go, oh, well, that makes sense.
Books are just kind of like, they're not interactive as much as the things that you made.
And I just found all the books so uninspiring. Funny enough, so did my students.
Can I hear more about the creative process?
Well, that's a good question, because
Oh man, this was a really fun chat. I'm really glad it worked out.
When you sell your time, when it's one person teaching one person, you're selling the time that you're in the studio. You're not actually, taking money from the student for a lesson. You're actually charging for your time. And when you take that one-on-one with a time thing, it doesn't matter what your service is. Here in the music industry, you're selling your time, and you can never get that moment back, that half hour, 45 minutes or 60 minutes, whatever it is. You can't get that back. And so you're capping yourself, because there are only 24 hours in the day, and a big chunk of that you're going to be doing other stuff, or you want to be doing other stuff. So it was coming down to, I said to Bruce, well, instead of going into the studio and working for, 12 hours on Monday and 12 on Tuesday and whatever and stuff like that, and never having a life, I said, let's just figure this out. So I said to him, you quit your teaching and start making the lesson material, and then we start giving the lesson material out to other teachers.
Yeah. So, I'd love to hear a little bit more context. Could you just share what the music school looks like so far, all the different offers that you have, just for some context on how you got to this point?
Sure, that's probably still Kirsten's domain.
We've got 3 studios in Johannesburg, in Far West Johannesburg,
South Africa.
In South Africa.
Nice.
And we've got 5 teachers who go in and rotate and teach whenever they can. So they give 30-minute or 45-minute slots, and we do drums, piano, guitar, bass guitar, ukulele, vocals, music.
Nice. What did it start off as? Was it just you two?
No, it was.
It was actually
just Bruce.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
What did it look like?
So it was me in a hole in the wall in a music store.
Oh, really?
I've been offered some space by the. I was playing in a band. This is many years ago, and the owner of the music store, the manager of the band owned a music store, and so one day I was purchasing some strings or something, and the owner's daughter said, "Oh, it was a bit of a joke. A drummer that I knew was standing at the counter, and he was telling me about how well he was doing with teaching." And I thought, teaching? What's that? You just go out and you play. So I was intrigued, and so as a joke, I turned to the music store owner's daughter and said, "You play guitar, don't you? Do you want some lessons?" And she said, "Yes." And I went, "Oh."
Good surprise.
And I went, "Oh, okay." And she was serious. And so I went, "All right." So I went around to her place, gave her a lesson. And she said, "That was fantastic. Can I promote you as a teacher?" And I went, I don't even know what that means to teach. I mean, it was literally, I didn't know what to show people. You just teach yourself.
Yeah.
And get on with it. And then, so they gave me a little room in their music store and started promoting me. And then next thing I was busy. And I carried on playing gigs and that sort of stuff. And then the teaching was a fantastic buffer for when the gigs weren't there. While other musicians were battling when the gigs were scarce, I was busy with teaching. And then eventually got to the point where I didn't want to go off and play gigs anymore, because it was kind of a case of I was enjoying the teaching more. And something that I've always particularly enjoyed was creating material for people. So I remember going and staring at the books in the music store, and looking for something to teach with for teaching aids, and I just found all the books so uninspiring. And funny enough, so did my students. So I started to kind of make bespoke lessons for them. I'd find out what they enjoyed, and then of course when you're sitting with somebody, you can see kind of what captures their imagination, or what things that you say or do they can understand or better grasp, which a book can't. A book is just meant for everyone. And
Yeah.
then, but the problem was I had all these ideas for creating multimedia kind of lessons, and this was pre-internet days, so I was burning CDs. You know,
This
everyone.
is before my time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The CD is this piece of plastic. It's round. You put music on it. And I was handing these out to my students, and so I was buying spindles of rewritable CDs once a week, going through
Really?
about 100 CDs a week, because I loved the whole idea of interactive lessons where they weren't just reading off a music stand, and I wanted them to have their backing tracks and examples, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then as the technology got better, we started using computers. And of course, then the creating of the resources became more exciting. Using Premiere Pro to kind of get your stuff going, as opposed to just audio. Now we could include video. But the problem was I was so busy selling my time teaching that I literally had no time to create the lessons that were in my head. And then instead, Kirsten, who said, you can't be the one teaching. People were in love with my methodology, so I was a very busy teacher.
Oh, gotcha.
And
Could I ask like how many students you had at that time? Like when did it get too busy to create like the lesson materials?
I was teaching 7 days a week. I would be teaching preschool music from about 8 a.m. till about midday. Then I'd go to the music, the music store, and I would teach from about. So I'd have an hour gap so I could get to the store, and I'd teach from about 1 p.m. till about 7, 8 p.m.
Gotcha. So it's like full day.
It was beyond a full day. It was
Yeah.
it was about 11-hour days of 10 hours solid teaching a day. And then Sundays I would start at about 8 in the morning and finish at about 6:30, 7 p.m. at night.
Man, how did that schedule feel?
Yeah. And then of course, and then there was a diverse range of teaching, because as I said, I was doing a preschool music program during the mornings, and that was about 4 or 5 days a week as well. And so all these fantastic ideas, and so then I'd get to the lesson and I'd go, oh, I want to do something, but I would like some resource to back up what I was doing. But when you get home at 8 p.m., after 11 hours of teaching, you're kind of going, I'm burnt out. I've had enough. I can't get to it. So it was a case of, I wanted to. There was a great Michael Keaton movie where he went and he got himself cloned, and then eventually his clone got himself cloned because everyone needed more time.
That's you right there.
That's what I wanted to do. And then Kirsten said, instead of cloning yourself, you could clone your methodology.
Gotcha. Where did you come up with that? Like, how did that idea first kind of stem from you, Kirsten?
Well, the thing is I met Bruce when my son started going for guitar lessons. So I used to take my son to Bruce, and he never had any time. So when we got together, he was always at the studio giving lessons, and I said, like, this is not okay. You need to come spend some time with me. So we've got to do something about this. Rather get somebody else to teach your lessons and you spend more time at home. So that's pretty much how it came up, because
that makes sense.
I played bass guitar as well, and Bruce taught me, and I love the way that he did it. And because when you go onto YouTube and you have a look, everything's geared towards people who can already play or know the basics or whatever. And when I was going on there, I started off with the guitar first, and I was going on there and I couldn't find anything for like complete beginners, how to hold it, how to do this. People, the terminology that they were using and stuff like that. And so Bruce came, when I started lessons with him, and he said, here we go, we're going to do this first, and you're doing this because that leads to that and whatever. And I thought, like, wow, this is really something. He's really teaching this properly, and I understand it, not like you see on the
nice.
Video. So I said, carry on with that.
I love that. It sounds like it really came out of a need, not just for the students, because they like the books are just kind of like they're not interactive as much as the things that you made, but then also for you as well, where it's like you're so busy that you had to make these things to not have to teach him all the time. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Well, that was Kirsten's motivation, so that I wouldn't have to.
Oh,
I actually made them so that my lessons would be easier for me to give.
oh, gotcha.
It's really nice to get into a lesson and have all the material there and ready. And when you sit down with a student, you don't have to go like, oh, what am I going to do with you today? You've got so
Yeah.
material available and at so many different levels that it just makes your life so much easier. And
What was that shift like? Like from teaching it every single time in the lessons to like using this now with your lessons? Like, what was that shift like for you?
You dug your heel. He didn't want to give up teaching.
Oh, I want to hear this story.
I'm a bit of a control freak, and so I remember I would have teachers in the studio next door to mine, and I just couldn't. I'd end up always walking in and saying, no. You should be saying this or doing the next thing. It was a big thing for me to step away and say, let them do it their way. So I think that was the biggest learning curve for me, was to actually let go and say it's okay.
Yeah.
The material, I also don't try to make the material. I don't know. It's just there. It's there for a teacher to be able to interpret it themselves. In other words, it's non-prescriptive. So if I make a resource and it's a song and there's chords scrolling by and that sort of stuff, I try not to put in all the information. In other words, I've got to remind myself I'm not making this necessarily for people to teach themselves. It's going to be open for a lot of interpretation. Somebody's going to look at this and go, I'm not, quite certain, and can you help me with this? And that was a big thing to get that balance right, because this isn't a self-help, or it can be, it depends on the person. But the teachers are actually finding it that, it's got enough information to get the student playing, but where they're still necessary in the equation as well. They haven't 100%. Been ruled out. You don't just want a student to sit there and teacher, can leave the room and the student can carry on.
Uh-huh.
So, but obviously,
Yeah.
some people can look at this and teach themselves off it, which is great. But that wasn't really the sole purpose behind it. It was an aid for a teacher more than a self-teaching.
Yeah. Can I hear more about the creative process behind, like your creative process around like creating these lesson materials, especially like if someone were to, if you were to start over again, like what is that process of like, where do I even start first?
Well, that's a good question, because when I started creating stuff, I thought back to how I learned myself. You forget, you get to a point and you sort of go, I remember an F chord was really difficult, but I can't remember how I got past that point of it suddenly, working.
Yeah, it just seems so natural now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then when you sit with somebody and they can't do it, and you're looking and going, yeah, I guess I was there too. How did I get through that? But Benjamin, the main thing was I wanted to. I'm very selfish as well. I kind of go, I make things that firstly please me. So when I create a resource, I've got to go, oh, this is what I would have loved to have had when I was learning.
Nice.
Well, I think that's my first kind of starting point, is what would I like to have learned with? And then I create, selfishly for myself. And then it turns out that other people seem to enjoy that method as well. And the way I learned was, this was before the internet. Have I mentioned that? When I learned to play, we'd just invented electricity when I started learning, and we had record players, and I'd put the record player on, and I'd sit and I'd desperately try and work out the songs, and the first thing was just to play chords. So I'd become a really good rhythm player, and that was one of the most enjoyable things for me, was just to sit down and play a song with chords and strumming and singing along and that sort of stuff. So when it came to creating chord resources, it was a case of going, well, let me put some simple songs together, simple chords, open chords, show them the chord, but also explain the chord in terms of like, why does a G look like a G? So in my resource, instead of just having a chord box with a typical open G chord, it says R3 and 5 on the diagram, which is the root, the third, and the fifth.
Yeah.
And when a student is sitting there, they go, what's with the R's, the 3s, and the 5s? And they're in different colors. And I go, now I teach you about that. And then they go, oh, well, that makes sense. So suddenly, like I said, if you didn't have the teacher explaining that, you wouldn't actually know what my coding meant. But now they understand that. And then I also found that when I was teaching, one of the most challenging things was getting people to stay in time with music. If I put on a track, or if you put on a metronome, or whatever your choice is, because that's the most important thing as far as I'm concerned. Music without timing, if you don't have great time, you can have wonderful technique, and if you don't have good rhythm, it's kind of almost pointless. So that's why I was always so passionate about people playing in time with a resource, because it also gave their playing some context. So, you're doing this G and this D, and if you don't sing, the chords don't really on their own necessarily make a lot of sense. But suddenly when you've got a drum beat behind it and some singing, and so I started creating these tracks. And in the old days, I actually created my own tracks. I'd create my own backing tracks, play the drums, play the bass, and I'd sing the songs, and it was awful.
Dang. One-man band.
Yeah, it was a one-man band, and and then put them onto a CD for the students, and they would come back and laugh about the songs that I'd created, and so like, love your singing, sarcastically, and
it's just, yeah, it just sounds really fun. Like that sounds so fun, and I love that you have that as kind of like your mentality when you're creating too, because I'm also like a music producer outside of coaching, and I've always gone in with that mindset of as well as like, I'm just going to create things that I want to create. Yeah. And for the content here with my coaching, all the videos on my YouTube, all the things I do with my clients is just like, what do I want to do? What do I feel like I would have wanted when I was growing my studio? Exactly. So yeah. So I really love that for you guys.
You can relate to that. Yeah. And then
100%.
then as the video side started to step in, and more students have now got access to internet. I started to realize, okay, I can trash the CDs. We can stop printing, and we can start to, and this was Kirsten's idea. She said, well, let's make a platform where they can access all their material, the PDFs, the MP3s, the videos, etc., etc. And so she's been, very much instrumental, pun intended, of building that kind of side of the business. So that when students get home, everything that they've learned in the lesson, they have instant access to when they get home. And then also with with lockdowns, and I started teaching online for the first time. I mean, like, no one knew what that was going to be like. And then that created a whole new series of interactive material based purely out of necessity, because I'd be sitting with somebody online and going, all right, I need you to play this, and I need you to play this in time. And then, of course, there's lag, and there was all that sort of stuff, and you didn't know if they were, getting it. And so, I thought to myself, okay, how am I going to overcome this? And then I was like, okay, I need to, with the resource, they need to know where they are at any particular point. And there were so many. It took a couple of years to eventually find a method that really worked, and we've got it now.
Nice. What does that look like? Like, what is that? What do you guys do with that?
So pretty much, it's so if you're doing a chord resource, for example, you're playing through a song. I started. Sorry, I'm just remembering how the first one was. It was fantastic. It was like Fred Flintstone, actually. You're too young to know who Fred Flintstone is, but
I'm aware of it, so I know how old this is.
So I had the music on a music stand, the chord chart, and she's remembering that. And I set up my phone to record it, and I took my pencil, and I recorded and I had the music playing in the background, and I pointed with a pen like where you are at this particular point.
This is like manual, like
it was manual. But guess what? It worked, because when I was doing a lesson and the student was playing along with my pointy pencil video, they were in time.
Yeah.
Like, and then I looked at this and I said, okay, so we're onto something. So then I took the concept and I said, okay, let me take the music chart, from that I'd created, scan it, turn it into a PDF, bring it into Premiere Pro, and instead of having a pencil pointing, I'd have a little finger pointing and telling you where you were on the chart at any given point. So that's already, quite high tech compared to the
Yeah.
video of me doing that. And that I had brand new students who enrolled during lockdown, and thanks to that resource, they were able to play in and stay in time, right off the bat.
Nice.
But now it was a case of trying to convert all my material into this format. And it was incredibly time consuming, trying to animate, this finger has to be here at this particular point. And, then we consulted with software developers and said, listen, can you automate this? I need some software that if I just punch in the chords, and it's got to lock in using AI with my backing track and automatically highlight the bar and that sort of thing. And the guys were going, oh, yeah, I don't know. This is, machine learning and all this sort of stuff. And I said, like, oh, just make it happen. We're throwing money. And ultimately, no one really was able to do it for us. And then.
So you did it?
Well, no, I didn't do the programming thing. No, I don't even know.
No, you did the.
Well, I found the next best thing, and that was to say, okay, instead of having the static page and the finger pointing, let's just do a scrolling chord.
Scrolling, yeah.
And
I've seen those videos on your website.
It hits a marker, and as it hits the marker, you play in time. And then the most amazing thing happened. I had students who could never stay in time with an audio track. Suddenly, with the aid of this visual, and because the scroll was going at a very specific tempo, they could anticipate when the next chord was going to happen. And suddenly, I went from students who couldn't count to 4 spaced evenly, who had no chance of playing music in time. They were suddenly doing this, and then I thought, okay, there's definitely something with this, and it's been tried and tested for a couple of years now, and yeah, it's working unbelievably well. The next thing was to say, well, are they going to be dependent on the scroll, or are they going to be able to still play without it? And surprisingly, they were, because I've taken students, put them into bands, and they can play.
Yeah,
So it does work. It really does work.
It's amazing. It's crazy to hear, at least for me, that you've been doing this like way before like the internet's ever happened. And yeah, exactly. And I hear a lot of teachers are like, I don't know how technology works, or it's going to be too hard to like figure out this online stuff. But you made it work even before it was even a thing. So it's definitely shown me that it's very, very possible for anyone to be able to do this.
Yeah. Then the next thing, which I was quite passionate about, was getting people to play with other musicians, right? That's or at least experienced a simulation of that. And this happened also during lockdown. There were two things happened. I was sitting watching I don't know, it just popped up on my YouTube feed, and it was a drummer, and he was playing a song, and he was just jamming along, and I was like so taken by his enthusiasm while he was playing that I actually picked up a bass guitar because I knew the song, and I started jamming with him. And because I found it more interesting than just playing with the track, because I was kind of so affected by his enthusiasm and seeing him hitting and playing and doing fills, and that I kind of started playing differently based on the visual.
Yeah.
And then that day came and went, and then a couple of days later, I was on YouTube again, and this video popped up with Brian May, and he was playing, and it was a lockdown video, and he said, come jam with me, and he starts playing a song on the guitar, and I thought, what are you doing? Because it was just his guitar, and I thought, is this a guitar lesson? So I was watching it. Then about 2 days later, I started seeing videos popping up where people had taken his video and they started to do these, what are they called, stitch videos?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like
And
when
so
there's like multiple videos at the same
multiple
time.
videos. Yeah, and so
Yeah.
Brian made a standalone video and then made a band with him. And it was like,
Oh,
hey,
cool.
look, our band's playing with Brian May. And I was like, I thought, that's cool. That's really, really cool. So I thought maybe I can take my little chord idea and have the students playing with a band. So they see the bass player, they see the drummer, and they see the singer, but there's no guitar player in the band. They're the guitar player.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then that started, and one of my students, when in the early days of trying this out, he actually said, he says, I feel like I'm playing in a band. I said, well, you are playing in a band. You are. I said, you always were when you were playing with a backing track, but suddenly there's this visual connection, and you start to understand. And one of the guys was actually saying, he said, oh, I'm watching the drummer because when he starts to go dun 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 dun, I'm going to start strumming with him. And they started to use that kind of that visual thing. So, and then that turned into a whole new resource, and eventually we built
BandJamTrax,
that became BandJamTrax, and then
Yeah.
and then we started tying in the tip videos of how to play it with the BandJamTrax. So you could say, well, here's a way to play the song, but if you go and play it with the band, you can pretty much do any chord voicing you want. You can play it like this or like that.
Yeah. Can you share a little bit more about that? Like how would you describe what is BandJamTrax, like that website that you sent? Like how would you describe that, since it's a little different than the music school?
No, you go.
Oh, okay. So well, firstly, the BandJamTrax was created for the music school.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just another resource, but I just thought I'm so tired of the usual backtracks. I get bored of putting on an MP3 and having somebody play along. So so as I said, the main thing was to actually make people aware of other instruments, right? And half the time people play and they don't even know like what a drummer does or what he sounds like, and they certainly don't know what a bass guitar does or what a bass. And that's talking from experience, because I remember when I started listening to music, I used to see this guy standing there doing something, and I didn't know what it sounded like. It was just
it's kind of like already in the music itself. So
yeah. And so I think one of the things I wanted people to be able to do was to develop their filters, to be able to discern between the different instruments and pick them apart and say, what can you hear? Oh, I can hear this, I can hear this, and I can hear this. And in this case, I can see this, I can see this, I can see this, and hear it. And so I think it just makes you a better musician. So when this started to take off, and the other teachers were saying, hey, the kids are really enjoying your jam with the band things, or whatever they were called at that particular point, can you make more? And I was like, oh, these things take so long to make, and they're expensive. And I'll tell you why they're expensive is because I have to pay musicians to play on them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it would be nice if they did it, the goodness of their hearts and wanted to do it, but they also apparently need to eat for some bizarre reason. So it was a case of reaching out to musicians that I had worked with and saying, listen, I have this kind of experimental thing in mind. Can you just put up I'm going to send you a backing track. Can you drum to it and just record your drums and send me the solo drum track? And then I'd then approach a singer who would sing with the same backtrack. But I say, can you just put up your phone and record your vocals and send that to me? And then a bass player, and they're all oblivious. They're just playing along with the backing track, and then I stitch them together, work out the chords, get the chords scrolling at the right time, and I think we've made about 106 of these videos now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
We would be making more, but now we're testing the market just to see, what kind of music people want, because there's no point going and making hundreds or thousands of these things and nobody's interested in those songs. So I'm trying to figure out kind of who the market is right now. So
yeah.
But the lessons, the studios tie in because firstly, it's a way of testing your product. You can test your resource. If it works for your students, if it works for your teachers, if people find value in what you've created and they're using it every day, then you're onto something, and that perhaps you can take it outside of your studio and take it to the big wide world. Because the studio again it's also it's another place where you've kind of just capped your resource, because the only people using your resource are your immediate students. And my passion was always to get other teachers to see the benefit in these resources and say, hey, you can use these too. Try them out for free, and see if you find any benefit with. And that is the next step, is to say, okay, can we reach out to other teachers and say, this is working for our studios and for our students. This could
Nice.
This could save you a lot of time, and perhaps you could just we could make some kind of deal. I don't know. You could pay to use our platform. So that's where we're at now. Is saying, okay, how can we branch this out?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else are you working on right now for like the future? Like what is next for you both?
Oh gosh.
Well, I'm busy brushing up on WordPress so that I can get another platform going for this. So it's not just our students in the studios who log on and create an account and have access to the resources, so that it's going to be a like a global thing where everybody can get on. So at the moment, the BandJamTrax is kind of global. Anybody can go on there and they can buy a track and they can jam along with it. But we'd just like to open up all the resources and obviously not just to people learning how to play the instruments, but to teachers as well.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So on the BandJamTrax site, the tip videos on how to approach the songs are all free, so people can go on there. And I purposely make the tip videos not the entire song.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like verse chorus kind of thing, and
like a little preview.
Yeah, kind of thing. But I mean, once you've got the technique and the strum pattern and all the rest, it's pretty much going to be the same for the rest of the song. But then people were saying like, I want the full song. I said, well, the band jam is the full song, and that's how we were going to monetize this. And so, all right, we'll give you all these free how-to videos called, approach the same song using triads, approach it using open chords, whatever, all these different methodologies. But then you can have that for free. And then if you want to play the full song and play it with, it's got the same format, the scrolling chords, so you're used to that method.
Yeah, it's almost like they pay for the experience of the whole thing, like actually being able to see all the players play with them and feeling that, like.
Yeah. And we've kept the cost really, really low as well. Because we this isn't about trying to recoup your cost on one video. It's kind of a case of like, well, if you keep it down and then more people, we really want people to use this because it's fun. It really is fun. And,
100%.
And we'd love teachers to use it in their teaching. So we thought, well, let's so I guess the next thing is, as Kirsten said, is maybe a bespoke teacher platform.
Nice.
Where we've compiled all sorts of resources and a teacher can subscribe to it. For example, during lockdown, we actually had somebody who was who found themselves stuck in I think it was in Hong Kong.
Oh yes.
He was actually a South African teacher, but he was and so he was locked down in Hong Kong, and so he reached out, saying, "Oh, I'd love to use your resources for my lessons over here." So it is something that can work globally. Yeah,
I love that. This question may be a little bit different for you both because you've been doing this for so long, but actually implementing those resources into the studio as you're scaling, what were some maybe like unexpected challenges or like the biggest challenges that you had to overcome with going from like a traditional, I'm just teaching my students every single lesson, to now using this or letting go of that control? Yeah. What were some of those unexpected challenges that you face in that journey?
I think it's probably the students themselves. They say like, I want a printed copy. And we say like, no.
That's true, because we've gone through a transition, haven't we? From old school, kind of call it old school, files and CDs, etc., and trying to get people's mindset. Music stands. I still use a music stand in my lesson. I still write things out and that sort of stuff. So I haven't. But yeah, it was as Kirsten said, there was some resistance from people saying like, I want to go home with hard copies of everything.
But I think it was the expense, because in the studio you've got to set up monitors and you've got to have your internet and you've got to have all these things now. It's not just the teacher sitting with a with the stand, the music stand, and his his guitar or whatever. You've got to have all this technological stuff. But as soon as the students start seeing it and realize that they've got full access to it all the time, then they say, okay, so I can go home and I can see this and I can do this. And yeah, you can. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, so there was a financial outlay. We had to buy screens and good monitoring and speakers and whatnot and that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it is worth it. I mean, even today, I had somebody write in and say, like, where can I find the resources that I did? Because we give the free trial lesson. She had a free trial lesson today, and she came straight home. And she says, I want to get onto these resources. Like, where can I do that?
Yeah, what I did in the lesson today, I want to do it now.
I want to do it at home.
Nice. How have you felt that you've changed as teachers in this process? Like, how have you changed your kind of like your identity as teachers with being able to create these things and try new things with the music school?
Yeah, it really feeds your creativity, because I used to find that if I was just a teacher, when I was just a teacher, actually I don't think I ever was just a teacher. Now that I think about it, I was never one of those people who just got the textbook and taught out the textbook. I was, as I said, right from day one, I was either creating my own charts, my own tapes, singing on the tracks myself, trying to. Now it's kind of I enjoy getting up in the day and going, oh, I can't wait to create something new. So, and then to go and try that lesson out. So it's a lot more exciting now to go and see the reaction, the response. And so I think, it's filled me with a lot more enthusiasm for the teaching that I do now. It's because I've had that, because I'm not teaching 24/7. I've had my creative outlet. Then I get to go and see it in action, tweak any problems. So somebody didn't really get this. Okay, I need to go home and tweak that. So I think it's fulfilled a lot of boxes that were empty for me before. There wasn't any creativity. It was very one-sided, and and I also wouldn't want to just sit creating lessons all day. So I think it's given me a nice balance.
I love that.
It pushes.
Yeah, go ahead, Kirsten.
It pushes you every day as well, just insofar as you've got these deadlines to meet. You've got students coming into your studio, and you've got to do these things, and you can't just sit and do the old CDs. You've got to keep reinventing all the time. And when you're doing something you love every day, it's actually not a job. So you get in and say, okay, what can I do now? And there's, all right, we've got a new version of WordPress out, and I need to update the website. And then you just get on a course and you do it, and you do that kind of stuff. So, with regard to the whole business, marketing, promotion, websites, resources, and all that kind of stuff. So you just get up every day, and it's, and I think that was a big thing about the pandemic and lockdown. I think it was the best time for us. It was this little bubble where we said, okay, how are we going to change this? Because we can't carry on the way that we're carrying on. And that's the nice thing about this, is you just, every single day there's something new, and you got to keep upgrading. So it's good.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. Oh man, this was a really fun chat. I'm really glad it worked out, because I know we were having some problems in the beginning. But I just wanted to say, Bruce, Kirsten, appreciate you so much for sharing your story. I have all your links, but where do you feel like the best place to reach you is, if anyone here is watching that wants to reach out to you guys for anything?
The BandJamTrax, yeah.
Yeah, the BandJamTrax.
Cool.
It's just that there's a contact page there, at bandjamtrax.com. But going onto that site, having a look at the stuff, and if they're interested and want to know more, they can just drop an email. Yeah,
because that's probably the best kind of example of the methodology that's accessible to anyone. Anyone in the world can go on there, and it gives you an idea of kind of, I guess, how we work. Yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. I've learned a whole lot from seeing that it's possible to do these resources through CDs. That's crazy. Before I was even born. So there's no excuse to not do this anymore, for sure. But then also just I love talking to other creative music teachers and creative musicians as well, and seeing you be able to implement your own creative process in this. Like that's exactly what I teach as well. That like our content creation, like social media marketing and everything, like yes, that's there to get students, but at the end of the day, I feel like our social media marketing is just a reflection of our present self, and it's just you showing yourself and using that as your creative outlet. A lot of people feel like, I don't know, for some reason I've been getting this thought a lot more often, and it's other people saying that musicians are not good business people, but I believe the opposite. It's like I feel like we're perfect for business because we are creatives. Like, and business should be a very like creative process. So thank you for being creative, and it just shows like how many students you can impact by doing that.
And the other thing, we're old, right? We're old school. We are old.
What are you talking about?
No, we are. And I think it's one of the things of musicians are also, and I know this because I had a young teacher working for me at one stage, and he was terrified of technology. And he was young, and I'd say to him, and he would say, "Oh, I just want to use a music stand and some music paper." And I said, "Man, you've got to kind of this. It's not about getting left behind. It's like it's exciting. This technology is exciting. The fact that you've got this HD camera on your phone and can do high quality resources, and video editing software, and I said it's really really exciting, and you should look into that." So and I just feel that, and as Kirsten said as well, having to suddenly go and learn WordPress and create websites and all that sort of stuff. It's very easy to kind of get stuck in your way, and I fear too many musicians are kind of like the ones who didn't get online. They went from selling hard copy vinyls and CDs. Keep talking about CDs, and they didn't kind of get that transition into online. And I know I'm talking. I have colleagues, teachers, who are just getting so left behind in the teaching world because they're just not keeping up with the tech.
Yeah, 100%. Well, again, appreciate you for sharing, and yeah, I will see everyone soon.
Thank you very much.